So if you're new here and you don't know me, I'm Joette Calabrese, homeopath for over 3 decades, mom who raised her kids using only homeopathy. And I'm a homeopathic teacher, a homeopathy teacher, your teacher. So if you already know me, welcome, friends. Welcome to my mighties. Welcome to Facebook Livers. So my guess is that you're here, right? Because you're interested in knowing how to take care of yourself, your family, your pets, your livestock, and either already love homeopathy or just now falling in love with it. So either way, I'm here for you every Monday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to teach you from my materia medica and other little tidbits that could save you a lot of time and money and suffering, as you well know. This is for you, folks. This is not monetized. That means I don't have a sponsor, and it's just you, and me meeting here, but not so much the way it used to be. So if you're coming via Facebook Live, do consider joining my little band of closer friends that I call Joette's Mighty Members. We are here together. It's like a little safe glee club or sorority. No censorship, no prying eyes, because it's my own private server. And remember, if you like what you see and hear tonight, please like, please share and comment so that you can get the word out to others. Lickety split. We need the world to know about this medicine, folks. And so you are one of the ways we do that. So I want to say hello to everyone. I see a lot of people joined in kind of early, which is wonderful to see. I love it. Thank you for reaching out to us with your care. You bet. I love doing this. It is one of the highlights. I have it on a Monday night for a reason. I do this on Mondays because I really enjoy getting my week kicked off with this kind of energy. And I will tell you that I actually get nervous just before I come on. I think, am I going to say the right thing? What if I make a mistake? I want to make sure that I'm steering people the right way. So anyway, I want to say hello from New York City. Amita Chatterjee, nice. From India to New York City, or at least your family was there from Wisconsin. That's Shelley. And hello from Texas, says Pam. And Wisconsin, and Francine from Newbury, Ohio, Minnesota. Has it started? No, here we are. Amita, we're just starting. Hi. Milwaukee, Colorado. Here we go. Wisconsin, Texas. Lots of Wisconsin people. A lot of people, in case you haven't noticed this, lots of people in the heartland of the U.S. and Canada too, mostly. We have some people from Australia, New Zealand that show up from time to time, but there are a lot of heartland people. Hi from Brisbane. Oh, here we go. Brisbane, Australia. There we go. Ohio. There we go. See what I mean? Yep. DC. Well, see, that's unusual. We don't have big cities on the East or West Coast as much as you might think. But I love the Midwest and the Southern states. Love. Okay, here we go. Let's get started. So tonight, I'll read to you what I wrote as my tickler, and that's scary and unsettling thoughts in these times call for smart medicines. I'll share with you the ones I find most needed for today's psychological fallout. These are the most important homeopathic medicines in your toolbox that you need from 2020 through 2021 and beyond. You bet, folks. These are different times, as we all know. I don't have to tell you that. You already know that, right? So let me get my other screen up here, and we can get started. First, I want to read to you a title of an article that was in The Lancet on April 6th. The Lancet is one of the world's largest, maybe I should say the U.S. I don't think it's the world's, but in the U.S., one of the largest medical journals. And it said that 34% of COVID-19 survivors, I hate that word. Really? Really? Do you have to go that far? Anyway, diagnosed with neurological or psychiatric condition within 6 months. Well, was it because the actual virus caused that? Or was it because the lockdowns and the measures that have been taken by states and counties, governors and commissioners, etc., and Dr. Fauci face, who is also a big part of that too? Was it that? But here's another part of this picture that I want you to consider. It is not uncommon for people to have or to get depression after the flu. You should know that. I've talked about that before, but I want to bring it up again because it is not uncommon for people to get depression shortly or even towards the end of a flu or a cold, especially kind of a more in-depth cold. Not because they feel depressed because they were sick necessarily, but rather it is actually part of the finishing product or project, I should say, not product, project of getting past the illness. So neurological effects, that's a little different. And I do see that. I've seen it in a lot of people. And I will say, how can you tease out what is the cause? Can we say the cause is having a virus or a flu, or is the cause the condition of the world and where we're headed? You know what? We don't necessarily need to know that. It's one of the best parts of homeopathy because we're going to use symptoms. We're going to use medicines that we know have acted in the past for people with depression and anxiety, and we know what works best. And I know you know what my favorite is, right? I don't even have to say it. I know you know that my favorite medicine for sadness, depression, insomnia, anxiety, one of the first ones, not in every single case, but in many cases, is, tell me, ladies and gents, mostly ladies, but gents too. I know you're going to know this. I'm going to close down my computer a little bit, this other screen, so I can see. All righty, let's see if anybody knows. Ignatia says Jane. Francine says Ignatia. So does Shelley. So does Linda. So does Jane. So does, we can keep going. It's going bing, 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 Ignatia. And I like Ignatia in the potency of 200. Will 30 work? Well, if it's all you've got, but I like to use Dolores, Alice, Kay, Donna, M, Anita. Everybody knows Ignatia. Teresa, you bet. You bet. Absolutely. Nice job, ladies and gents. And I'm seeing it in Facebook Live. You people are wonderful. What can I say? I love meeting with you. You look great tonight. You all are, you're ready to learn. Yes, and 200 works, says Allison K. You bet. Absolutely. So when we use Ignatia, it's Ignatia 200. We can use it in a 30. Could we use it in a 1M? Certainly. But 200 seems to act for most humans and dogs. Buster gets it too when my husband goes out of town. Works really for most people who have anxiety. I don't need to even look at this. Grief. Now, disappointment, fear of the future, feeling vulnerable. Who feels vulnerable these last many months? Who feels vulnerable? Guarded. They can easily cry easily. And sometimes that's alternating with laughing. So it's almost like a type of hysteria. Have you ever been to a funeral? And the loved ones who are left behind are weeping and sobbing, and then somebody comes to them and says something that kind of makes them laugh a little bit, and then they start laughing, and then they go into and back into weeping again. It's like this flip side of the same of a different emotion, all wrapped up in one. That is often Ignatia. Not always, but it often is. There can be hiccups. There can be gasping. There's insomnia, bursting into tears. So we don't have to have all of these. I want to make this very clear. I'm giving you, could be this or this or this, but if they're all 3 or 4 or 5 of these, now we've got a dead ringer. But one of the medicines that I wanted to talk to you about tonight that I have found I'm using time and again in my practice. Ignatia's always right there up front. But I'm noticing something different. I'm finding that there's another medicine that is really working in a very fine way. And that is, excuse me, phosphoric acidum. Excuse me, phosphoric, PHOSPHORIC, phosphoric or phos acid. You know, sometimes they include these abbreviations in books or online, etc. It's when someone is cooked they've had, excuse me, they've had the anxiety, they've had the sleeplessness, they were in perhaps an Ignatia state, but now they're online and they're reading more and reading more, and life is not looking so good, and worrying about our country and the state of affairs in the world. And they start to become almost indifferent. They want to just, I don't know, sit on the couch and watch movies. And it's a feeling of dullness, flatness, lacking in response. It can be when someone is too much in the head and then the emotions too, but especially if they're too much in the head. And I've often used this medicine for particularly young men who are studying very hard. They're working very hard in their schoolwork and they become indifferent. Too much in the head, not enough outside activity, not enough balance. That's phosphoric acid or phosphoricum acid or phos acid. It's all the same. Symptoms are often worse from sleeping. So isn't this interesting? What I find is that the person wakes into the depression or the lack of interest or the dull state of mind. So when they wake up in the morning, that's when they feel it the most heavily. And so phosphoric acid, what potency? I've used this in the whole gamut. I've used it in a 6. I like it in a 6, phosphoric acid 6, twice daily. As soon as the person is much improved, and it's the same thing with Ignatia, twice daily for these medicines, especially for something like these, is once the person is improved, then you stop using the medicine. If the condition returns, they get flat again, they become indifferent again, you start right up with the medicine. So it might take 2 or 3 doses. That might be all the person needs. Or it might take consistently for a week or 2 weeks. This should not be considered. For those of you who might be new to homeopathy, do not consider using these medicines like a vitamin or a supplement, so you just take it forevermore. No. We're always looking for that tipping point. At what point do we see that this person is now improved? Because when we improve, we stop the medicine. A lot different than supplements and vitamins, right? That's the way this works. So staying in line with the phosphoruses, another medicine that I like very much, which is very related to it, is Kali phosphoricum. Kali, Kali, phosphoricum, Phosphoricum. When I'm just speaking the letters, I have to look at them. The person that requires this is depressed after long periods of emotional exhaustion and stress. Long periods. Is a year a long time? You bet. Too much stress, too much excitement. Has this been a boring year or an exciting year? Well, it depends on how you define exciting. But there can be a lot of exhaustion. Oh, by the way, phosphoric acid, both of them have a lot of exhaustion. And I'll step back again. I'll go back to phosphoric acid in a moment. Nervousness, exhaustion. There's a concentration problem. There can be headaches. There can be insomnia with Kali phosphoricum. Let me go back to phosphoric acid because the homeopathic medicines that have an acid in the name, not all of them, but most of them are particularly good for fatigue, especially psychological fatigue, emotional fatigue. Very good for that. So remember, any remedy with an acid can be used for that. It can be considered, not used. You don't just jump on it. You want to consider it. So phosphoric acid, I like in a 200, as I said, twice a day. Kali phosphoricum, I like in a 6. Sometimes I like it in a 200. What would make the differential? Then I would say if the case is screaming Kali phos, I mean, it's really clear. It's not just, gee, I wonder if. If you wonder if, then stay with a 6X. But if it is indeed something that's very, very clear, then I would go with a 200 for Kali phos as well, and also use it daily, twice daily. All right, let's see what I've got here. You also know, I know that you know Aurum metallicum. I've talked about that ad nauseum, but it's still worth mentioning again. or metallicum is best for excessive worriers, but it's specifically for someone who's thinking of suicide, even if they would never attempt it. The talk of it, thinking about it, turning it in their minds over and over, or even just a couple of times. That's an important aspect of Aurum, Aurum, metallicum, just the way it sounds, metal, and then allicum, metallicum, metallicum, Aurum metallicum. And I like to use this medicine in a 200 potency, and we generally don't use it daily. I like to use it every third day, 1 dose, sometimes every other day. And many times I like to add, and this was a Banerjee protocol that I learned from my esteemed friends and colleagues, the Banerjees, Doctors Banerjee, and that was to add coffea 200 to, when they use Aurum metallicum, they often use coffea 200 twice daily. So it's Aurum metallicum 200C every other or third day, 1 dose every other or third day. And in addition to that, coffea 200 twice daily. That combination does a lot of good, especially for severe depression. And it's also for people who have difficulty sleeping, because coffee is all about sleeplessness, because you can imagine if you drink too much coffee, it's going to keep your mind very busy and you want to be able to get to sleep. And that is one of the telltale aspects of coffea, Coffea. I hope I'm not going too fast. I just worry about getting this all in. And you can always watch this again, folks. I know that you must know that, right? All righty. What else do we have? This medicine did a lot of good for me. The first medicine ever given to me, homeopathic medicine, was given to me by my old homeopath, Diana, and she was very good at what she did, and she just nailed it. She gave me Nux vomica. That's not what I'm going to be talking about, but it really helped me. Then shortly after that, what I found that I needed, maybe 8 months, 10 months later, I needed another medicine, and that was Arsenicum album. Now, there are many medicines for depression, anxiety, overwhelm, neurological events that are represented in depression and insomnia and all of that, overexcitement. If I crack open my repertoire here, I will see probably 50 of them. I'm giving you the top ones that are the most, that I use most frequently. But this one in particular is closely related to colds and flus, viruses. A cold is a corona. I'm sure you know that by now, right? Cold is a coronavirus. So this fits nicely. These people who need this medicine are excessive worriers. They worry about their families. They obsess about health. And that is what the whole world has been doing. I didn't know that we would have such an excessive world of worriers, but all that had to be done is for people to hear it on the news every night. I guess that's pretty powerful, isn't it? On the news every night, and it scared the life out of a lot of people, most people, as a matter of fact. But for those who are very frightened by health, they don't like to be alone. They're perfectionists. They're very organized. They're very tidy. There's an obsessive aspect for these folks. They usually have very high standards for themselves and for their home or their lifestyle and for their families. And they feel often poisoned. Now, may not use the word poison, but, even the smallest things can feel like they're poisoned. Eating too much of a certain food makes them feel poisoned. And there's a lot of restlessness in people who need Arsenicum album. And it's a great medicine for colds and flus, and especially after a cold or a flu or a virus like that. Okay, let's get to some of the questions. Can women take Aurum metallicum as well as men? You bet. It's well known as a man's remedy because an important aspect of Aurum metallicum is the amount of responsibility. They have a responsibility to their family, if they have a business, to their employees. Now, women are doing those things too, of course. So it had historically been connected to men, but absolutely, Aurum metallicum is a very, very good medicine for women as well. So it's Aurum metallicum is made from gold. It is gold. just highly diluted 200 times to the 100th power, if it's a 200C, and that's what we're talking about. And then we often think of them, I think a homeopath taught me this many years ago, that it is associated with the golden boys, those men who have been very hardworking, very responsible. They're usually the men who are the underpinnings of society. They take their work very seriously. They worry about their families, their community. They worry about their employees, those who are under them, if they're middle management, for example. So that is why we call it for the golden boys. Arsenicum in 200C, 200 as well. Now, Arsenicum, yes, I would use Arsenicum 200C, and I would use it twice a day just for a few days and test it out. And if you see a change, and most likely most people do see a change, then you know you're onto something. And if there's improvement, then what do? We halt. We halt the use of the medicine. If it's still needed, we're going to continue. But we don't want to continue without evidence that there is good work being done by these medicines. And generally, we can tell within a few days or so, especially when we're using something twice daily or every other day. All righty, same question. All righty, let's see if we have some. This is all Facebook Livers. How do you take homeopathy for acute issues? Well, I would call that this is possible. What I'm describing tonight could be a chronic issue. It could also be an acute issue. We might find that the person is doing just fine, has gotten through the last year, being able to work it through without any of this going on in their head. And then all of a sudden, something on the news. Well, let me say parenthetically, you're not watching the news, right? Don't watch the news. No, don't watch corporate media. I talk about this all the time. Murder, kill your television. Get rid of it. Don't even allow it in the house. Look, I don't want to brag, but because I worked at NBC for years, for just a few years, but before that I worked in an independent station in Buffalo, New York, I learned what television really is, and it's really to uphold the sponsors. Now it's to uphold the sponsors in the government. So I'm going to tell you, my husband and I raised our children without a television. We didn't own one. We just didn't have it. We had a screen, but they had no access to the television format. So I got to tell you, it's one of the best things we ever did in raising our children without a television and without having a television in our bedroom, for example. So I'm going to urge you, if you need news, I urge you to go to independent citizen discussions, independent online on alternative formats. Aurum for male reproduction, disjunction as well. You bet Aurum is excellent for men for hormonal issues. We're not talking about that tonight. But let me also say that when you're choosing a homeopathic medicine, don't go by what I just said. Do your homework. Go one step further. Crack open your Materia Medica. Either it's mine or it's one that you own at home in a nice old book. Or you go online. I always say go to Dr. James Tyler Kent. It's free online. I believe that Boriki is also online free. I thought I saw that recently. All righty. Can you do 2 of these medicines at the same time? I would not do that. I would, unless it's very unusual circumstances and you really know your medicines well and you really know what you're doing, I would urge people to choose one medicine for that whole picture, because you will have better results, and you will not be if one medicine is acting and you're using another one, you won't know which one is working, right? You need to know that. You have to know this. We haven't had a television for over 50 years. That contributed to our children's great creativity. Isn't that the truth, Lois? Isn't that the truth? My kids were outside all the time, or in the winter, they were often in the basement with their bandsaw and nailing things. And we had wood down there, and we had all kinds of great things for them to be putting things together. Loved your conversation with Joepathy. Yes, I did put that. I did post it. For those of you who are Mighty members, do listen to that or watch that conversation that I had with Joepathy. Would love to hear more of your conversation. Please share more of those weekly talks. I will be doing that. We meet weekly. This week we missed a couple weeks ago, and then we're going to miss this Thursday night for me and Friday morning for him. Okay, is there a lot of sugar in the remedies? Yes, the remedies are made of sugar. Absolutely, no worries. Don't worry about it. If that is a concern of yours, then buy them in alcohol, buy them in water, put them in water, and take them that way. Don't worry about sugar. I mean, we don't want to eat sugar all the time. Certainly, there's no doubt about that. But they're on sugar because sugar is stable. All right. And we absolutely don't want to, wait a minute, hold on. Let me just look at this. Yes, this is important. I'm sorry. I stopped in mid-sentence because I want to make sure that I make this very clear. If one dose works, do I stop or do I continue for a few days? Here's the answer. When a medicine acts, when the homeopathic medicine acts, you stop. It could be 1 dose, could be 3 doses, could be twice a day for 4 days. Whatever it is, when it acts, stop. When the condition returns, go back to it. All righty. If you cannot drink coffee or alcohol or smoke, is Ignatia constitutional? I don't know how not sure I understand that question. So if you want to rewrite it, I might be able to get it in time. We've got just 1 minute. Joette, what do you do when you get approving but feel that the remedy works or fits? Must you change? No. If you're getting approving, generally a true approving means that the remedy is too frequent or incorrect on some level. So if what we're saying is that the person feels better after taking Aurum metallicum, they no longer have suicidal thoughts, but now instead they've got itching, a little rash, use the medicine for itching. But if they're completely better on Aurum metallicum, then we're going to stop so that you don't have to keep going. I'm only saying that you're going to continue on Aurum metallicum if the person is much improved and then they stop and they need to take it again 3 or 4 or 5 weeks later and they start it again. But every time they started, in spite of the fact that their thinking is much improved, they now have a new condition, which is itching. If that's so, then you use a medicine, homeopathic medicine, for itching. Because what's the hierarchy? The hierarchy is we want the mental state in very good shape, because nothing else can work without the mental shape being in good shape. That especially if we're using something like Aurum metallicum and we're dealing with something as severe as suicidal thoughts. All righty. So let's see. Let's see if we got here. I'm going to just try to stay on this subject if you don't mind. How do you know if a medicine is proving if an acute hasn't fully run its course? I'm not sure I quite understand that. How long do you wait if it works? If you give a dose, how long do you wait to see if it works? Oh, well, I would just use it as, for example, if we're using Kelly Phosphoricum, we're going to use it twice a day, about 12 hours apart. I hope that makes sense. All righty. It is 8:31 Eastern Standard Time. And I ask you to please share this. Share this with your friends. Share this with others. We need to get this word out. Remember, if you didn't see my last week's session on eupatorium, do watch that because it's a great prophylactic. It's Joe Pathy's, Joe de Oliveira's medicine that he talks about. And I've been using it and have used it in the past many times. But he's had such good success with it in Calcutta for this that people are dealing with. So I urge you to go back and watch that Facebook Live. And for those of you who are my mighties, you can certainly watch it there as well. And so with that, I say good night, everyone. Mwah, and God bless. See you next Monday, 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Bye now.